First of all, you have to ask me, how did I get into the world
Yeah,
of dance?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly, because...
That's the right question, actually.
Yeah, because all children, I'm sure even you must have been very naughty and very fidgety. So was I.
Hanji.
And so all children are fidgety, they are always wanting to do something. So I was no different, and I kept on saying, would do something, chup ho gaye, do something. And then, Ma, ab main kya karu? Then my mom said, nacho. So now, literally and figuratively, I've been dancing all my life since then. Because she took me to Sadhana Bose in Calcutta. I was born in Calcutta because my father was posted there. She was the famous dancer of those eras. By the way,
we're talking about
we're at 1950.
1950. Wow.
So she took me over there. And then, so that was the year 52 or 53. And so she took me over there. And so then I was barely 3 years old. I believe later on, Sadhana ji told me that when your mother brought you to me, she said, I looked at your size and I was aghast. And she told my mother in Bengali, Koler bacha nahi escho, god ka bachcha lekar aayi ho. Wow. So, but then she herself added that this god ka bachcha became her pyara bachcha. Because everybody else would run away, and this god ka bachcha, who never had a smile on her face at that time, would be standing like this and say, I have to learn more, I have to do more, I have to dance more. But somehow the other, to cut a long story short, I had found my vocation, my life. Wow. And so it was like a fish finding its life in water. And so I found it. And so since then, I've never seen a day without dance. And I still remember that one I remember, the other I don't remember, but I was reminded of it. And that was the one which I was reminded of was by Ma Nirmala Devi. Okay. I knew her as auntie. Hanji. Because that time in Bombay, because they were my parents' friends. And so when she had her satsang over here in the 90s, and her disciples had asked me to perform, so then I went to just say namaskar, and touch her feet. Then she said, I know this girl. I'd known her when she was this high. And I still remember when I asked her, what are you going to be when you grow up? She says, I'm going to be a dancer, auntie. So she said, since then, I knew that she had that determination in her. And the same thing happened with an uncle of mine, who happened to be the first president of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, that when he came to Bombay on his state visit, so when, like all children, of the family asked, bade hokar kya banogi beta? So I said, main to dancer ban rahi hu. Then he started smiling and told my father, as though giving him, little this thing, don't worry, she'll grow out of it. She's still a child. Little knowing that my parents were all for it, they said, okay, whatever you do, but keep your values intact.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Wow, that's very interesting. In fact, when you said cutting long story short, I would like to listen to the longer version, but of course...
No, then I would have dramatized it, you see.
So
that's and I would have said, it was an evening, late evening, I went there, my mother took me like that, and there was this lady. Actually, she was beautiful. Sadhana ji was very beautiful. I remember looking at her like that. You still have images. And so like this, and it was not a very well-lit room. And there she was glowing. I mean, there was this beauty sitting over there, and I was sort of a little intimidated. And then my mother said, go and touch her feet, go and touch her feet. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like this, then I go quietly to touch her feet,
Yeah, it looks like, the way you're describing it, it looks like a scene right out of a movie, an old movie, or something which is very, which has, that rishi or that spiritual feel to it.
Yeah,
that opening a door and, not a lot of light.
Yeah,
so that was and how long did you learn from her? How many years?
Actually, I would say 1.5 years or so. because my father was then transferred to Bombay. So 1955 we came to Bombay. And this was, we are talking about 52, 53.
Okay.
So then, because my parents, as my father would say, तुम्हारी माँ को तो याद ही नहीं रहता है. वैसे 2.5 की थी, 3 की थी. जब वो उन्होंने बोला था तो 2.5 की होगी. And that is that, that I was put into that and taken to Shadhana ji.
Oh, wow.
So then, so that is how. And so because why I remember another incident is because I had gone to my mother's home for a holiday or something, and then I heard everybody dancing, entering some competition. So it was an all Bihar dance competition, and me, little one, I created a shindig. I said कि मुझे भी जाना है, मुझे भी. And my mother, being a strict disciplinarian, a perfectionist, the so-called, she said no way. And her aunt, the 2 aunts over there, were even more. They said, Babuni, तुमने अपने बेटी को क्या सिखाया? नालायक है, ये है, वो है, that kind of a thing. And then I kept on creating a big fuss. So finally, my name was entered. Everyone said, तुम तो जुम्मा भी सीखा है, where will you go? And I still remember, because that was my first stage performance, and I had got a stage fright, and I'll always remember that stage performance, because I had stage fright, fortunately a day before, when they had called all the contestants, and I had become a stone. I did not even budge. I mean, I was stiff, rigid with fear, and when I returned home, I got the thrashing of my life for creating such a spectacle of myself. And then, nothing worked. Inside I wanted to dance. I wanted to dance, break free, but I had this chains, fear actually. So there was engulfed in it, I was enmeshed in it. And फिर उसके बाद फिर जब मैंने माँ की ये डांस, ये नौटंकी बाज जो है मादा कि ये उसका डांस वांस बंद, तो माँ ने कहा हाँ बिल्कुल डांस वांस बंद. And I knew my mother, when she said anything, she kept her word. I said नहीं आप बंद ही नहीं कर सकती हैं, मैं तो नाचूंगी. And then the next day I went and danced and came back with the first prize.
Oh wow.
So then I was taken to when we went back to Calcutta, then obviously गुरुजी के पास जाना था.
हाँ जी.
तो फिर गुरुजी के पास गए. अब शाम का वक्त था. This was so अब उनके घर गए थे, करनानी mansion. There she was, lying on a settee like this, and looking. I still remember that. She was looking so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. I got a fright for the second time. I wouldn't go to her. I had my medal hanging on to me. I was clutching onto it. I just wouldn't go to her. Then she sang, Ashun, Ashun, and she kept on doing like that. And I was recoiling. Then finally I went to her. Then she just embraced me.
Wow. And you were how old then when you went?
Must have been 4 and a half.
Wow. But when you did this, and then eventually you started learning in Delhi as well. But that was when?
No, we went to Bombay.
Bombay.
And
okay.
in Bombay it was Guru Kundan Lal Sisodia who taught me. And then when my father was posted to Delhi, because he was in civil service, you see.
Yeah.
So when he was posted to Delhi, then I came under the tutelage of Birju Maharaj ji. For that 1 year, the first year, my mother was looking around for, so during that period, for the intervening period, Guruji from Bombay had sent his son-in-law to keep up my practice.
Yeah.
But knew that, he had to go back. He had just come for a limited period. By then, so he said, tab tak aap kisi ko Delhi mein dekh lijiyega. Then my mother zeroed in on young Birju Maharaj ji at that time, who himself was evolving and growing. He was only 26 or 27. So he was very young and he was still making, his mark. And so that's how I came under his tutelage in the year 1964.
1964, wow. 9 years before I was born. So that gives away my age. Doesn't matter.
I was at that point of time 13.
And at that time you had
and a half.
decided that you want to pursue dance.
But I told you, na, I had already told Ma Nirmala Devi,
हाँ जी.
I had already
You
told
want to become a
Dr.
dancer.
Rajendra Prasad.
हाँ जी. And after that, from 1964 up till which year?
Yeah, till 75, you know, I was, because 75 I appeared for the civil service exam.
Yeah.
76 I left Delhi for my training.
हाँ जी.
So I was with Maharaj Ji.
अच्छा, हाँ जी.
And so actually I'm indebted to him for 8-10 years. He came to my house every day to teach me. First I used to go to his place.
हाँ जी.
Then suddenly I don't know what came over him. And so he told my parents, अब मैं आ रहा हूँ.
अच्छा.
एंड आ तो रहे हैं, उन्होंने खुद कहा कि आ रहे हैं सिखाने के लिए,
हाँ जी.
लेकिन उन्होंने एक पैसा नहीं लिया. सो माय पेरेंट्स सेड आप आ रहे हैं
हाँ
रोज
जी.
आना.
रोज आना. हाँ जी.
एंड तो फिर लेकिन
That's a big-
एक बहुत बड़ी बात
हाँ
है.
जी.
सो गुरु दक्षिणा तो उनको पान का बड़ा शौक, वो तो लास्ट
हाँ
मोमेंट
जी.
तक था.
जी.
लास्ट मोमेंट तक रबड़ी का शौक तो बिकॉज ही गॉट डायबिटीज.
हाँ जी,
तो
yeah.
फिर बट रबड़ी का शौक, तो फिर रोज उनके लिए रबड़ी और पान रखा जाता था. डेली गुरु दक्षिणा.
I remember the last time I met him, उन्होंने मुझे कहा था कि अगली बार आएगा तो मेरे लिए गोभी के परांठे लाइयो.
अच्छा.
And I asked somebody at their house कि इनको अलाउड है कि घी में बने होंगे, देसी घी में. नहीं तू ले आई हो, कहते तू ले आई. But unfortunately that was the last time I met him. So but when you since you went into civil, you know, your education and all, you still continued dancing.
Oh yeah.
Were you performing on stage at that time?
I was supposedly a well-known young dancer at that time.
Oh,
because in 1968, you know, earlier I've always been on stage.
हाँ जी.
But when I came to Maharaj Ji, he said, for 2-3 years, you're not going on to the stage.
अच्छा.
So he says, जब तक मैं तुम्हारी कलाइयाँ ना ठीक कर दूँ, तुम्हारे bends ना ठीक कर दूँ, angles ना ठीक कर दूँ, तब तक you're not going on stage. So my parents readily agreed, and when I think of today's parents, they would say कि बेटी कब जाएगी stage पे, you know. So
पहले ज्वाइन करने से पहले पूछते हैं जी वो कब होगा, इनका मंच प्रवेश आएंगे तो कब होगा, कितने साल.
But my parents said no, man. I told you my mother was a perfectionist.
हाँ जी,
So
I remember.
तब तक. So then in 1968, you know, then 66 or so,
हाँ जी.
he allowed me to do small little things, but not a major one. But 68, he says, "Ab now you're ready," and then he introduced me himself in Sapro House.
Wow.
And
That was 1968.
1968 is here. You know, this is here.
Wow.
And he did my makeup himself.
That's amazing.
And when he went, when Naina Devi,
हाँ जी.
the famous Thumri singer, she and my mother went for my, you know, dance ka kapda, shopping and all that for the material. Maharaji went along, and one of this thing, to buy the gota, कि ये ठीक रहेगा कि ये ठीक रहेगा. So I mean,
So it was like a manch pravesh, or it was
Yeah,
like a
it was- no, it was
was it
like-
announced as a manch pravesh? के first solo or
no,
just
you know,
introducing
he
you?
was introducing me as a manch pravesh, but as a professional
As a professional. Okay.
artist.
हाँ जी.
So that was in 68.
And how was the struggle in those days? If you compare it to what is happening these days, especially in pandemic.
Look,
You know,
yeah.
post-pandemic.
Yeah, no, things are similar, I would say, but the scale is different. That time, you didn't have so many avenues.
हाँ जी. Yeah.
So you had very limited avenues. And then whoever was there in the field, you had a similar kind of a, you know, it was,
हाँ जी.
say,
Yeah.
the population was, say, 100. So it
Yeah.
was 1 to whatever.
Yeah. हाँ जी. Yeah.
And today, you have many more avenues, but the population is also
Yeah.
10,000.
हाँ जी.
So now it is so, I think percentage-wise and the kind of struggle, it's a similar kind of a thing. But I would say that there is a difference in the taste of the audience, the rasikas.
Yeah.
Because that time,
That's true.
the rasikas,
Yeah.
that is the audience,
हाँ जी.
their tastes were not so corrupted as on
Yeah.
today with all the different kind of consumeristic programs and avenues and this thing. So I think so there it was you had to really make your mark, because everybody knew, they understood. Today I think that's a difference.
And when a guru like Pandit Birju Maharaj Ji is introducing someone on stage and saying she's ready for dance, so the public is expecting something huge, something huge.
Yes.
Do you think the hard work that you did is the same level of hard work that the dancers, very young dancers, are doing these days?
See, even in my time, there were, say, many of us, learning. Not all of them are there in the field.
True.
So here also you have a number of them. But I'm so happy that you always have a small number who's so dedicated. When you see them on the road, you'll think they're very modern and this and that, and but look at their mehnat, their sadhana, their dedication. It's amazing. You know one of my students. In fact, you know 3 or 4 of them. And you have worked with them. The kind of dedication and the kind of sadhana, call them at 8 in the morning or 6 in the morning, they are there. Call them at midnight, they are there. Make them dance the whole day, they are there. And you know them, they are Shivanis and Kartikas and Rinalinis and so on and so forth. But now, even now, that they are now established dancers. They are making, Shivanis,
and they're all solo dancers.
All solo. I churn out solo dancers.
You have taught in a way that everybody's becoming a solo dancer on the stage and not just becoming a group dancer.
No, I prefer they have to be a solo dancer. They have to be able to stand on their own feet. They should be able to create a new tree, because it shouldn't be under a banyan tree, nothing. They have to, sort of, they have their own cycle of life, so that they have to go forward and be creative, keeping the ethos and the spirit of the dance form, which is my dance form, that is Kathak, that what I've learnt. But even that, because no dance form is static. It is constantly evolving, constantly changing, but it has to be done intelligently in a very, very organic way, not in a rat race way, that way.
Which is the right word for today, for these days, rat race.
That that you're compromising with a lot of things. When I'm saying compromising, you shouldn't compromise with the ethos and spirit of the dance form, because the dance form gives you enough avenues for creativity and for self-expression. But I would say that even after their generation, you have the youngsters. They are equally dedicated, but not all of them. As I say, I have this many, but I will say, yes, this is it.
You've traveled for your work, not dance, but the other work. And has it always been that I was looking at an interview of some dancer very, very a few days back, in which she was saying that whenever I travel, I always keep in mind that wherever I'm traveling, I could arrange a dance performance there. Do you ever think like that? Or did you ever think like that when you were working? Never.
I didn't mix the two.
Okay.
When I was working, it was that life. When I'm performing, it's this life.
So does it not become very difficult at that time? Because an artist's life is like a dancer, or a musician's life is always like thinking about creating.
But you see, I grew up with the duality, and touch wood, I was a good student. So, and I did do rather well in my academics, and so I grew up with that duality right from the word go. And what I learned early, indirectly at that time, but today when I look back, I did ask my mother that question, but that was much later in life, and that was shortly before my mother died. I think the incident was probably when I was 7 or 8 years old. We were in Bombay and studying for my terminal exams, and perhaps according to my mother I wasn't studying. I was sitting with my books. According to me, I was studying very hard.
That sounds like me. This sounds like the story of my life.
So then, till my mother, I found my mother just closing my books and saying, "Get lost." So I was scared, as to now what have I done, kind of a thing. And so anyway, I had to get lost because my mother said, you're not studying, you're not concentrating, you get lost. Anyway, I came back after whatever I had, probably it was dancing and playing and everything. Came back and I studied much better, and I again maintained my first position in class. So now that became a habit. I don't know whether it was out of fear of my mother or just whatever it is, but it became a habit. But later in life, I asked her. I said, "Why did you do that?" She said, so that you learn how to concentrate on what you do. If you're just overlapping things, you'll never get anything done. You were ambitious in that, you were wanting to do this, but do it well. Whatever you take up, then do it well. Otherwise, don't take it up.
One thing I wanted to ask you, because I've shot a few of your performances, I've seen your performances on stage, and I've asked this question to some other senior artists as well. When you visualize a composition that you want to create something new, what comes to the mind first?
No, it could be different things at different moments. But the common thread should be, for me, is, has it touched me? Has that idea touched me? I might be just reading something and it just touches me. And so my way of expressing it is through dance.
Through dance.
I might just hear something, a sound, or just a movement, and it touches me. Look at that. And how do I react to it? Through dance.
Through dance. Wow.
So, something has to the first and foremost, most important for me is this. It has to touch me. And then it follows.
You have been in a long distance relationship that we were discussing about for many years. How many years has it been since you married?
Now, we'll be completing 40 years on the 4th of May.
Wow. And how did that happen? How did that start? How did he woo you, or how did the...
Let me tell you, I was running away. I thought it will never work out.
So how did that happen?
We met, we met on 4th of December, the number 4. That's...
Today is 22nd.
So
a lot of twos today.
Yeah, lots of twos today. So 2 plus 2 is 4.
Yeah.
So then it was on the 4th of December 1979. Ustad Vilayat Khan's wife, Monisha Bhabhi, had, had asked me that I and Shafat Ahmed Khan, Ustad Shafat Ahmed Khan, to perform. And then after that, and also explain a bit. So anyway, in Kathak, we always explain a bit and we perform.
I'm all ears, and I like to listen to stories.
Then she said, after that will be, after the performance, etc. I hope you don't mind if there will be, some Q&A. I said, no, not at all, not at all. But then when I looked at the composition of the audience, it didn't. Take it. After that, when the Q&A, by the time others were doing Q&A, when my turn came, I had disappeared through the back door.
Oh.
Completely. So when they say, where's the dancer? Where's the dancer? Had disappeared. So That was, so my husband saw me, I never saw him.
Oh.
And then a few days...
Usually the case with the audience.
Then a few days,
Usually the case...
is the reverse.
No, same. I have seen a lot of dancers on stage, but they have never seen me.
That's true. That goes irrespective of the gender. Then, and so a couple of days later, I was invited to his place. He sent an invitation through Bhabhi that for a farewell dinner that he was hosting for another diplomat colleague of his. I said, I'm not going. She persuaded me. So that's how it started. Then again he invited me through Bhabhi for a dinner out and a movie, etc. It happened once, twice, 3 times. Then I think he decided he did not need Bhabhi anymore.
Yeah, that should
and
be
so it became direct.
Haan,
but then he was posted out because he had already completed 5 years of his posting. He was at that time the deputy ambassador, And so then he had completed 5 years of his posting. So he went back. And so ours was basically a long distance, and in that he kept on trying to say, let's get married. So I said, no, we can't, because it'll never work out. I had these preconceived ideas, the foreigner meant,
Oh yeah.
That aaj hai, kal koi aur, parso
Exactly
koi
what I
aur.
wanted to ask. Hanji. But you can continue.
I've preempted you. So then he said, no. Then once I was going in 1980 to Switzerland for a performance. Then he said, can you stop by to Austria? He made me stop in Austria, and then I had to meet his mother, his 2 sisters, and then I was taken to meet all his friends. See, they've been married for so many decades. See, they've been married for so many. See, so my parents were married for so many decades. See, so and so, like this. So I said, So it went on, So, but then, and since it was long distance, so one saw that he was very consistent and very this.
That's amazing. That's a love story that should be, told. There was a survey done during the pandemic. That,
I know that the artists ran to nowhere.
Hanji, they're like least essential profession.
Exactly.
What
Commodities. I'm angry. I haven't answered because I wrote about it also.
Achha,
and then but
I'm glad I have that question.
Because and I've been talking about it, writing about it, but then kaun sunta hai? And I'm not that one of those aise wali varieties,
So what do you think about that? It's non-essential. The first non-essential profession was being an artist in these times.
Yeah, I would like to ask everybody. When you talk about designs, kisne kiya? Some artist has done it. No? Whether it is not a dancer, but then this thing. But then coming to that also, whether it is fine arts, visual arts, or performing arts, they're all inextricably linked. Completely. Look at their old thing. वो पुराणिक story है ना मार्कंडे की, sage Markande in the Vishnu Dharmottar Puran. That he wants to learn painting. So he says, Acha, if you want to learn painting? So he says, please, do you know anything about forms and dimensions? Do you know sculpture? So he said, go and first learn sculpture. So he goes to learn sculpture. Says, do you have any idea about movements and space and things like that? Go and learn dance. So he goes to learn dance. Then he says, do you have any idea about bhav and feelings? Etc. And something, music, because everything is, you have to feel the music within. Go and learn music. So look at it, how it goes in. So everything is interlinked. So I'd like to ask these very people, आप उठ करके जब आप खुश होते, आप गाते क्यों हैं? आप भजन क्यों करते हैं? आप रिलीजियस है, आप क्यों ऐसे, फिर क्यों आप शाम को बैठ करके अरे कुछ अच्छा आ रहा है ये देख, अरे दैट सारे गामा शो और फलाना शो एंड ढिकाना शो, तो कोई तो आर्टिस्ट है. So you are actually, even when you go and you're preparing something, khana or a food or something, that is also an art by itself. So each one is an artist. How can you say that anybody who's doing Nach Gana or painting and sculpting are non-essential features in life? Because you are doing yourself and you're utilizing their art in your daily life, from each and every waking moment. You're utilizing. So tell me, have a day without any of these things.
Oh, that's true. Very true.
So I'm sorry. So it is such misplaced ideas. Such misplaced ideas.
I've been with Didi for the past 26 years now. My mother introduced me and wanted me to learn Kathak, and we were living around Pandara Road at that time, and Didi was staying there, and that's how I got to Didi, and I think that's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've been with her since I was 6 years old, started learning at a junior level, did the riyaz in the initial years of my life, and then Didi was kind enough to sort of take me under her tutelage.
Apart from the obvious, what I find the most precious about Didi is that she gives a lot of freedom. She gives a lot of freedom to not only create, but to be who you are, to stand up for yourself, to moot an idea, to think of something, and then to give it your backing. How do you make sure that you are going to follow through with what your thought is? So she never tries to impose an opinion or an idea, or she will never tell you this is a right way or a wrong way to do things. She will give you a framework of, this is the work ethic that I want from you. Be punctual, be kind, be good. Don't get into a lot of politics. You're here to learn and grow, right?
With Didi, my journey has been more than with both in terms of dance and in my personal life. I think Didi has played a huge role as a guru. Of course, every guru tries to impart the knowledge that they do, but with Didi, she's also been a mentor in all aspects of life. I remember, I'll share a small incident. I remember I was giving my 10th boards at that time, and we used to do classes twice a day at that time. And I remember she was like, isn't it your board year this year? And I was like, yes, Didi, it's my board years. And since then, she was like, no way, you have to be extremely dedicated towards your academics. So apart from doing 2 classes a day, 5-6 days a week, she gave extreme emphasis on the importance of academics. She wanted us to excel in both areas, both dance and academics. So that, I think, really instilled a sense of discipline in both aspects of our lives, and not just me, all the students and all my peers in the class. So, and funny enough, she used to call anybody who was in class 10th or 12th, she used to call us untouchables. She's like, नहीं, तुम पहले अपनी बोर्ड की पढ़ाई सबसे अच्छे नंबर लाने हैं और साथ में डांस भी करना है.
So the ethic, these things are not said in so many words, but she leads by example in these things. Like you see that in how she conducts herself everywhere. Yeah. And she doesn't encourage anything else in her environment. So as I was saying, that she creates it's like she's planted a seed, and the seed is that disciple and that training and that learning that this disciple is getting, and in my case, me. So she planted a seed, and she watered it, gave it the nourishment that I needed, gave me the environment and the space to then blossom or to create something of my own from there. How I grow up is up to me, which direction I take is up to me, and she never tries to impose her route on that. She doesn't want to create duplicates. She doesn't want to create duplicates of herself. She doesn't want to create duplicates of each other even, She wants everyone to have an individuality and originality. And we do things which have respect and that can make you hold your head. You just feel proud of your work. You know how to own it. You know how to present it. You should learn how to make your mistakes. You should learn how to rise up from them. So, as I said, this is a value system. And it's not that there is a my ways or the highway or that sort of thing.
Right.
So imagine if your guru is giving you that space, then automatically you start, like what I enjoy reading may be different from what she enjoys, right? Or what somebody else enjoys. What inspires me is different. Who I am is different. But I think I have got the space from her to be able to, explore what I think lies within me and what I feel I can do with it. And dance is just something that features into this whole dynamic, So because classical dance and how we are taught it is not really about method. Yes, it's about technique and all of those things. But it is a lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle that you need to choose for yourself where you want to go with it, It can be a metaphor for so many things.